24 hours online festival by JAWS-UG, JAWS Sonic, JAWS Sonic, and Midnight JAWS 2020. Rave up!
はい、皆さんおはようございます。AWS で、コミュニティマネージャーをしています沼口です。顔は映しておりませんが、今日はですね、米国 AWS からですね、ゲストをお招きしております。Amazon Web サービス、バイスプレジデントチーフエバンジェリストのジェフ・バーさんです。もし、ほぼ皆さん知ってるとは思うんですが、ちょっと知らない方に彼の紹介をしますとですね、2004年の11月からですね、AWS ブログ、皆さん見てると思うんですが、そのブログをですね、なんと2004年の11月からですね、現在まで記事を投稿を続けているレジェンドになります。2002年に Amazon に入社以来ですね、一貫してエヴァンジェリストとして活動して、AWS の今でも AWS サービスの最新かつ技術的に適切な、そして読みやすい情報を提供していただいている AWS の生き字引的な存在となります。奥様もですね、合わせてお二人ともですね、非常に親日家で、日本にプライベートで観光に来たいとかということで、訪日を楽しみにしていらっしゃるんですが、今この状況ですので、なかなか日本に来れなくて残念だというふうに言っておりました。それではですね、40分になりますけれども、今日はですね、ジェフはですね、ユーザーグループ、世界のユーザーグループにの勉強会、コミュニティイベントに参加しているということで、そのユーザーグループのパワーであったり、AWS にとってのいかに大事かといったところの知見をですね、ぜひ共有していただきたいというふうに思っています。Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Yeah, I'd like to say first, welcome to this crazy but great 24 hours online virtual event. So we are so pleasure to have you here today. So we've been looking forward to seeing you. So can you start your presentation?
Yes, I would be very, very happy to. I'm ready to go ahead.
Yep.
I've got my video on and ready to go.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be speaking to you today from Seattle. Shigeru-san, thank you so much for the invitation, the introduction, and all of the arrangements that you made to make this happen for me and for, more importantly, for all the members of JAWS-UG. I would love to be there in person, but circumstances being as they are, I fully understand why it is best and safest for us to do everything remotely. In fact, a little bit later, I'll speak about some of the really interesting changes that I think that are happening just right now as we go from a lot of business travel, a lot of in-person, to now this really new world that we have, where we have to say, what can we do with our technology and with our connections and with our remote presentations? So I think we're in a very unique time in history where we have the opportunity to really do some really new and interesting things with the power that we have. Today, I want to speak to you about, I think, a really important topic, and one that is one of my personal favorites: the importance and the power of user groups. Just a tiny bit of background so you know who I am and a bit of where I came from. I earned a degree in computer science many years ago, actually in 1985, if you want to know the full date. And then not too long ago, I went back to school part-time and I earned a degree in communication and digital media. Now, interestingly enough, I did that while I was working, and it was during a time when I was with AWS, and I was actually traveling back and forth to Japan fairly regularly. I think there was a time I probably went either 3 or 4 times a year for several years, which overlapped with my school time. So several times I would wake up in the morning, Tokyo time, work the entire day, fly back to Seattle, and then go to class in the evening. So it always made for a very long day, but a very worthwhile day. Before I came to Amazon, I spent some time at some startups and doing some web services consulting. I worked at Microsoft on the Visual Studio team for a couple of years. Pretty early in my career, I was lucky enough to be a business traveler to Japan. I think either the late 1980s, maybe early 1990s were my first trips. This, of course, was before maps and smartphones and translation software. So it was, as you can probably appreciate, a much more challenging way to travel than it is today. I joined Amazon in 2002. I think I made my first trip to Japan as an Amazon employee probably by the middle of 2003. So I've always enjoyed those trips. I've enjoyed meeting so many of you over the years and getting to know you and to appreciate all of the warmth and the positive spirit that you bring. I was very fortunate early in my career to be a member of a very early technology user group. If we go all the way back to 1976, a little group called the Northwest Computer Club was formed here in Seattle. The organizer was actually a really smart person named Bob Wallace, who went on to work at Microsoft and then went on to actually invent the concept of shareware. But I was a young person. I was a teenager. But even being young, I remember going to that user group, that club, being able to meet people, to listen, to learn, to connect. And we always know that things that happen to us while we're young have a really strong impact on who we grow up to be. And I can still think back to these early meetings of the Northwest Computer Club and how enjoyable it was, how much I would learn every time, and how worthwhile that trip always was. Let's turn our attention to JAWS-UG. A decade ago, I was invited to Tokyo by my colleague at the time, Hideki-san. He said, "We're about to form an AWS user group in Tokyo. Would you be interested in being a speaker at this brand new user group?" Of course, I said yes, given my interest in and affection for user groups. I of course came, and was a great way to get the JAWS-UG off to a good start. It has been wonderful over the years to watch all of from that early beginnings, to watch how JAWS-UG has thrived and grown, and not just within Tokyo, but as I understand it, all across the country and perhaps even beyond Japan as well. So congratulations on all that hard work that you've put in to make that happen. I went back to my presentation archive, and I found the presentation that I delivered, that very, very first user group, "Welcome to JAWS." So wonderful to be able to have said that 10 years ago and to get your meeting started. I think this slide was totally relevant back then and is still relevant today. It was very interesting to think of this idea of a shark and the jaws, and to really kind of connect that to the state of technology and to the JAWS membership. If we think back to that time, we still had a lot of on-premises IT. The cloud was brand new. Early adopters, many of the members of JAWS-UG, you were the ones that looked at the AWS cloud very early and said, "This is actually better than what went before." Now, this within your colleagues probably created just a little bit of a sense of surprise and maybe fear. People are naturally a little bit fearful of the new and the unknown. But what we found is that the cloud and also the JAWS members, you're fast, you're efficient, you get things done. What I remember from that very first meeting, you were hungry. You were hungry for knowledge and for information. You asked wonderful questions. Whatever I would say, you would very politely raise your hands, ask a question of me, either directly or translated if necessary. Either way, I just truly appreciated those wonderful questions and that hunger, that desire to actually learn something new and to be able to put it to use. And I must say, also, you're intelligent. You looked at something brand new, you looked at the cloud and you said, I like this, I understand it, and I want to learn about it. I want to put it to use in my business, my personal work, my school, whatever was relevant at the time. You did that and you did it very, very quickly. So this slide was relevant 10 years ago. I think it is still relevant today. I've been back many, many times since. When I showed up for JAWS Days 2018, was in my days of having purple hair. We had a wonderful time. We took a lot of beautiful purple selfies. I actually have so many of those still in my office. I have a big printed poster of all the beautiful pictures that we were able to take together. Thinking about events and live events, I love the fact that I'm able to present to you remotely. I do miss the fact that we used to get to be able to meet and say hello and exchange a smile and take a selfie together. We don't have a virtual replacement for that, and maybe we never will. But I do have very great memories of that JAWS Day 2018. When I think about a user group, what do I think about the members of these user groups? To me, these are some of the really important positive attributes or properties. You're very curious. You always want to learn something new. You always have great questions to ask. I can't say enough just how friendly all of you are. When I show up at a meeting, the smiles, the handshakes, the happiness, the joy that I see, it's so welcoming. And I can see that it's maybe a little bit special for me because I made a long trip to show up, but I see it between each of you as well. I see you being so helpful to me, to other people. You have this wonderful positive spirit, this enthusiasm that when you do see something new, you immediately look at it and you say, this is interesting, this is valuable. I think I should understand this and see what I can do about it. You're also very self-motivated. One of the things that I find fascinating about the concept of a user group is that people go there because they want to. It's pretty rare that someone goes to a user group because their colleagues or their manager said, please go to the user group for me. You go because you yourself had this just desire to be there and to participate and to help and to learn. So I would offer you my thanks and my congratulations for doing that. You're also organized. When I think back to the various JAWS-UG events I have been lucky enough to be able to attend, I think about all the details that all of you were able to pull together, the space, the speakers, the food, the programs, the content, 100 really important details so that when the guests show up, they simply say, what a wonderful professional quality event. But we all know that to make something like that happen takes a lot of work, a lot of organization behind the scenes. So this is how I think of the JAWS-UG organizers: the curiosity, the friendliness, the help, the enthusiasm, the motivation, and the organization. I thought it would be really fun to take a quick look at AWS in Japan. Quick look back. I do want to recognize one of my longtime colleagues, Hideki-san. Hideki was the first official employee that we hired in Japan. He was marketing manager, was his official title. He was so important in the early days to form JAWS-UG and to help us to make sure that the developers and startups and enterprises and the press all across Japan were aware of AWS. In my archives, I have this wonderful picture. This was day one. You might have heard that we have a day one culture at Amazon. Day one for AWS Japan started out so simple. It was just this one quiet little well-organized desk. If you can see very carefully on the screen there, it just says AWS-J. This was the very humble beginning. This was that little seed that grew into the AWS community and users and teams and all the success that we have had all across Japan. This was the beginning. Not that long after that first visit, I wrote a blog post to announce the fact that the first AWS region in Japan was open. That was in March of 2011. That was the 5th AWS region that we launched, and just the third of the regions that we launched outside of the US. Now, when I look back at this, it's really interesting just how compact and how simple AWS was back then. We had EC2, we had CloudWatch, Elastic Block Storage, load balancing, auto scaling. We had S3, SimpleDB, relational database service. We had Simple Queue service and Simple Notification service, and then Route 53 and CloudFront. That was that was a lot for its time. In 10 years, of course, we've progressed a lot. We'll talk about that soon, but this was our beginning of AWS in Tokyo. What I love about this was our start. When we announced this first region, the JAWS-UG members saw this right away, and they said, this is our opportunity. We can now start to put our websites and our applications and our businesses on AWS in Japan. And so all those of you that were the first adopters and that saw this blog post and started with AWS at this point, once again, thank you for seeing us, for believing in us, for getting started in those early days. With all of that initial success, just 18 months after that, we were seeing so much growth, so many customers, so much great AWS usage and scale. We expanded the region. We added another AWS region, or another AWS availability zone in Tokyo. We had some great customers I called out in the blog post at the time. We had CookPad, we had KAO, we had the Kawai Ward project, all wonderful initial customers that helped us to get those seeds planted and to get AWS solid and growing within the country. Now, about 18 months ago, we announced something special, and we tried this out first in Japan because we thought this would be very relevant for your country. We announced something new called a local region, and we didn't actually announce this with a big announcement. We wanted to keep it just a little bit quiet and make sure that the customers in Japan had first access to this local region. What was a little bit new and actually kind of magic, if you will, about this region, this region was connected to the Tokyo region so that what we call the AWS control plane, which is all of the management when you call an AWS API to create a bucket or create a VPC or launch an instance or create a DynamoDB database. That control plane continued to have an endpoint in Tokyo, but then it would actually control resources in Osaka. So we pioneered this idea of a local region in Japan. It worked out so well. Lots of great customer usage and success. We announced that we would actually expand it to a full region. That work is well underway, and we will have a full region. I believe that early 2021 is the target date for that region. So just some of the initial successes in Japan. Let's look at that another way. What did we have in 2010? We had EC2 servers, we had object storage, we had block storage, we had, of course, the virtual private cloud. SimpleDB was our NoSQL database. We had the relational database service. I think at that point, we probably had either one or two database engines available. Depending on how you count, I think we had either 11 or 12 services. We had 5 AWS regions at that point. We move forward a year, we've got many more different ways to compute. In addition to into EC2, which is still widely used, we still continue to add features, to add instance types to EC2. We've got Lambda for serverless. We've got several different container-based models, both EKS and EKS. We have Elastic Beanstalk. We have Lightsail, if you need a very, very simple way to get started. We have something relatively new called Outposts, where if you want to run AWS in your own data center, you can buy one or more racks full of Outposts, which give you EC2 and EBS and auto scaling and RDS, all within your own data center in a rack of hardware that is built and supported by AWS. Another new compute option is called Wavelength. We are working with various providers of 5G communication to put AWS inside the various 5G communications facilities. We currently have this operational in a location in the US. We're working to add additional locations in the US, as well as to scale out globally. So lots and lots of improvement and evolution over the course of 10 years. When S3 started, there was one storage class. You can think of this as we often say in English, we say one size fits all, which says whatever shape you are, this size is going to be the right one for you. We now have 7 different S3 storage classes. Very similar model for EBS, 6 different volume types. One of the really interesting parts of this, something I like a lot with EBS, you can create your volumes with a particular type. If later on, as you analyze usage, if your needs change, if you need different performance, if we launch a new volume type, you can change your running volumes to a new type without disrupting your operations at all. We've got multiple different types of file systems. We've got EFS, the Elastic File System. We've got FSX for Windows. We've got FSX for Lustre as well. We still support SimpleDB. We still have customers that use it. Almost every new application is probably going to make use of DynamoDB. But that does show our commitment. Once we launch services for customers, we do our best to keep those services running for a very, very, very long time. RDS still there, now with far more database engines than 10 years ago. We also have RDS Aurora, which is a more modern approach to the implementation of a relational database with a very highly parallelized, very scalable set of storage and query engines beneath the surface. At this point, AWS is more than 175 services, and we've grown from that initial 5 regions to 24 regions. And there are 3 more regions that are in the works. As I mentioned before, the Osaka full region is under construction. We've got regions coming up in Spain and in Indonesia as well. So if you were an early believer, an early adopter of AWS back in 2010, you've had the benefit of all of this new services, improvements, new options, new features over the years. So why are user groups so important? Another way to look at this, like I already said, these are voluntary efforts. This means you're there because you want to be. You made that personal decision that of all the things that you could do with your personal time, you thought that going to JAWS-UG was the most important thing to do. You're also there because you know that your personal contribution makes a difference. To me, this can really span a very wide range. At the simplest, you show up, you walk in the door, you sit down, you listen, and you learn. That's a great personal contribution, being there, listening, appreciating, being part of the audience. From there, maybe you could at some point aspire to be a speaker, you could be an organizer, you can help behind the scenes, but the user groups work, they succeed, they continue because people like you contribute your personal energy to making that happen. I think we can say that one of the core purposes of a user group is absolutely for sure learning, the sharing, the speaking. If you haven't done a whole lot of public speaking, a user group is a wonderful place for you to start doing that. You can pick a topic, share something that you know, you can build up your identity, build up your reputation, get a little bit of practice as you do so by doing that in the very friendly and comfortable environment of a user group. I'd say as important as the learning is going to be the social or the connection side of that. You're going to get to meet other people that are probably somewhat like you. They have maybe the same background. They clearly have some of the same interests, maybe compatible personalities. User groups are great ways for you to connect and to make new friends in a warm and welcome and casual environment. So I would advise you to take advantage of all of these opportunities when you are, whether you are meeting online as you're doing now, or if you're able to, or if at the point when you can once again meet in person. Contribute, benefit from JAWS-UG in all of these ways, if you could. So what's going to happen next? I want to just advise everybody who's been such a great organizer and contributor over the years, keep up all the great work. Please keep on thinking about finding new ways to connect and to share and to learn. I would love to come back at some point once it's safe for us to travel, once you're ready to have in-person events again in the future. I'm here and I'm ready. So keep that invitation ready and warmed up. Okay, we got some wonderful questions ahead of time, and I actually love the fact that we got these pre-questions because I had some time to prepare some really good answers, hopefully some thoughtful and helpful answers for all of you. First one, what do you think the community can do in COVID-19? I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I've been really looking around for examples of ways that communities can change and to help out. And I think there's what I've been doing is kind of thinking, what are my own best practices? And these are a few that I've come up with just lately. I think that this is a very emotional time for a lot of us. We have to be empathetic. We have to think in terms of, are we well connected to our friends, to our family, to our coworkers? Do we have a good understanding? Are they happy? Are they scared? Are they insecure? Are they upset? This is a time for us to be a little bit strong and to give them a little bit of extra support. Which brings me to my next point, the personal resilience, okay? There's so many changes happening here, and we're gonna have some good things, some bad things, some negative surprises, some positive surprises. We have to be strong. We have to say, okay, these things are going to happen to us. I'm going to take them. I'm going to absorb them. And I'm going to just see what I can do to actually be even stronger as a response. I do think that as we look at all this, we have this really interesting opportunity to be more agile than ever before. This comes in, to me, a couple different ways. We have to deal with personal change. We have to deal with business change. We have to deal with, where do we work? How do we work? How do we entertain ourselves? How do we connect with our family? How do we connect with our friends? All of this change can be very scary. It can make people very uncomfortable. I really think that we have no choice but to actually say it's happening to us, and we need to be flexible. We need to be agile. We need to take it as new challenges, as new motivations, and as something that energizes us rather than it might scare us a bit, but it should also at the same time say, this is an interesting opportunity. My next point, I think that those of us in the tech field actually really have an advantage here. When we start to think about this ability that, as we're doing today, we're putting together a complex online event. We have multiple speakers spanning 24 hours. We have speakers coming from different parts of the world using different kinds of technology. What we can do as people that like this technology and that are skilled with it, I think this is really our turn to use this tech to help us deliver great content, deliver great presentations, and maybe actually help us to stand out a bit. I have been doing a number of these events online where I'm streaming from my desktop. I've got lights, I've got cameras. As you can see, I've got a green screen. I've got this wonderful, awesome JAWS-UG shirt that actually interferes just a tiny bit with the green screen in entertaining kinds of ways. If we now have the power to take all of this technology and to put it together in new ways, I think that's going to give us a wonderful advantage, help us to deliver better content, get our point across more clearly, and to really, let's just take this tech and use it. Just as an example, I'm using a little piece of software called OBS as my personal video studio. I can switch between multiple cameras. I've got a second camera here to show you what my video studio looks like. We can very, very quickly switch back. I think we have this neat opportunity to say, let's take this tech and let's kind of raise the water level, raise the bar, if you will, to use the tech to do even better jobs of being online presenters and connectors. I also think that this time is really going to help us to be better communicators. We now have to focus on being online. We're either going to be better presenters, better writers, better speakers. We probably have to make increasingly good use of social media and written communication. Putting all this together, the tech, the communication, these are skills that, regardless of where the world takes us in the future, being great with tech, being a great communicator, these are things that are going to really be wonderful assets for you. As this new tech comes along, I think this is this great opportunity to be an early adopter. Try something new. Try video streaming. Try using multiple cameras. Learn about green screens. Learn about bringing in PowerPoint and video together. Learn about using AR and VR as part of your presentations. These are all really, these are times when people are very open to the use of tech in new ways. And I would say that for all of us being technologists, that this is our time to adopt these technologies and try them out. I think that we have some challenges with motivation, it's a little bit different when you are working from home and you don't have your colleagues nearby, you don't have your manager nearby just saying work, 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 work. You have to have a little bit in the way of self-motivation to make sure that you are doing what needs to be done, you're staying on track, you continue to learn, to improve yourself, to push yourself forward into the future. So now, perhaps more than any time before, this self-motivation is going to be really important. All right, another great
2分前
question.
です。
Another great question. I'd like to hear your candid opinion about the AWS User Group's 24-hour community event from Japan. I think this is a really wonderful idea. This idea of taking a lot of content and packing it together into a 24-hour event. I don't know that everybody can actually watch everything, but making it as a special event, bringing it all together, great idea. What would you like to see in the future for AWS user groups, not only in Japan, but also in other countries? I think I've covered quite a bit of that in what I've shared already. Let's use tech. Let's continue to be open. Let's continue to be receptive to new ideas. Let's see if we can be the ones making the world a smaller place and helping people to learn and to get along and to better understand and to appreciate each other. Okay, here's a hard question. Looking back on the feature releases over the past year, which service impressed you the most? Well, I actually don't like to play favorites. I think there's always something new for somebody. And rather than picking one individual service, what I like about AWS is we're always building things in response to our customer needs. So what impresses me is when we launch any new service or any new feature, it is always designed to meet the needs of some very specific set of customers. So as soon as it's launched, customers find it, they start using it, and we actually satisfy the needs of customers right away. Another one, what do you get by continuing to write blog posts? So at this point, I've written somewhere over 3,100 blog posts. My speed has slowed down a little bit because we now have several other bloggers that I'm working with and trying to train a next generation of bloggers. I still enjoy the learning, the writing, and then most of all, the sharing of all of this good news that's always putting some more power in the hands of our developers. Okay, and then a tough question. What's the next big plan for your hairstyle? Well, at this point, I'd say the graceful gray is probably what I'm going to be sticking with for some time. I've probably used up my family's patience for a while with my famous purple hair, but maybe one more time. Maybe if we can do one more in-person big event, we can do some purple hair. And with that, I want to hope that you have a great 24 hours. I want to thank you all for all the amazing work you've done for the first 10 years. Let's be sure that we recognize the 15-year mark and the 20-year mark. Hope that you get to sign up for reInvent 2020, which is going to be both online and virtual as well. Thank you so much. I actually have a nice Japanese beer here to enjoy. My family was nice enough to get that for me. So kanpai, as you say, enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you so much for watching. I've really enjoyed preparing this presentation for you and hope it was just a great use of your time. Thank you so much. Cheers.
From